Hello, and welcome to another podcast of the Benefit Builders. Myself, Brian Gleize, Matt Spate,
Hello.
and Mark Blassie, we're here, and we are your Benefit Builders. Our goal is to simply help business owners like you get the most out of your employee benefits, making them as efficient as possible to help you retain and attract the best talent that is out there. Today, we're going to talk about alternative funding methods for your health insurance. Now, sounds complicated. We'll break it down. And what we're going to do is kind of an overview. And then in future podcasts, we'll dive deeper into some of these. But in an earlier podcast, we talked about the Pillars of Excellence. And the Pillars of Excellence is a tool that we use to keep everything on track, to get us as efficient as possible. This conversation is going to fall inside of that cost pillar. So when we talk about different ways of funding as far as health insurance goes, there's going to be three main types. Now, these types have subcategories and different offerings in them, but those three are going to be fully insured, level funded, and self-funded. Now, which one of these are going to be appropriate to you is something that we're going to help you with as your trusted advisor. Mark, would you like to just take a stab at all three of these or kind of get us kicked off on your thoughts on funding alternatives?
Sure, Brian. As you referenced, one method to control the ongoing rising of healthcare costs is to look at how you're funding your insurance. And it's important to acknowledge that these three forms do change the way you share the risk of your employee benefits with the carrier or different vendors. In the first approach, fully insured, that's the traditional way most employers funded their health insurance until they get to a size where it makes sense to look at some of the alternatives. In fully insured, you're paying a premium and you're expecting the insurance carrier to pay for all those claims. Whether the claims are high or low, that's what you pay each month. Next, level funded is one step away. It operates very similar to fully insured. You're paying your monthly premium. But the one major difference is at the end of the year, if your claims were lower than what the carrier underwriter expected, you can share in a refund of that claims fund. And the third is self-funded, where you're deconstructing the fully insured program and reconstructing the insurance for your employees based on a stop loss to protect you for high cost claims. You have an administrator paying those claims. You select your pharmacy benefit manager, and that's where you have the most control. But as you look at those options, the considerations must be: what's your size? What's your risk for appetite? Where's your geography? Do you have access to those vendors and those tools? Are you committed to going into some form of self-funding? Those are all extremely important. And as benefit builders, we stand right next to you to help you evaluate and perform your due diligence.
Absolutely. Well done. When we talk about fully insured, it is what everybody cuts their teeth on. It's kind of the set it and forget it. As long as you pay your bill and you pay your deductible, the insurance company takes care of everything else. And while some people will look at that as an extreme advantage because all of the manpower to figure this stuff out is done by the insurance company, it's also one of the most expensive ways to do it. On the level funded program, there's an opportunity for a refund. Matt, would you talk a little bit about that, please?
Yes, Mark mentioned it briefly, but they set aside a certain amount of cost that they think your group is going to use as far as claims, prescriptions, medical costs. And if you have a healthy year and your group doesn't near meet that cost level that they adjusted for, then you could be eligible to get some of that money back. Vice versa, you have a poor year health-wise, not only would you not maybe get any of that money back, but they're going to readjust that level and your rates for the upcoming renewal in the next year.
So on a level funded program, we as your benefit builders are actually going to communicate with your employees using technology through videos, through also personal visits. Communication is also one of the pillars of excellence that we have on our platform. So I love coming out and doing group meetings because for a level funded program to work, we have to make sure that everybody is rowing in the same direction. And we do that through best practices. We let your employees know that the lowest cost is their general practitioner. After that, it would be a teledocs or maybe a minute clinic, then the urgent care, and then last but not least, the emergency room. So it is important. You just can't throw a level funded program out there and just expect it to work. We have to put in the work. We have to put in the communication. And that's something that the benefit builders will assist you in doing. Now, the third one, the self-funded program, is one of the most exciting for us. Man, it's where we really get to flex our muscles. This is a little bit larger group, and it's where you as the group get to replace the insurance company. Now, we spend a lot of time talking and counseling the employer on how to transition that mindset. We've had some incredible successes. Mark, would you talk a little bit more about self-funding and some of the journeys we've been with some of our larger clients?
Sure, Brian. I think it's important to understand as you're moving away from fully insured to level funded and then into self-funded, the commitment to participate in one of those risk sharing programs is extremely important, because with level funded and with self funded, you gain access to data. And
Right.
this is data that, as Brian said about employee education, we could actually measure the changes in consumer behaviors of your employees by looking at what is referred to as utilization reports. How much of your spend is done in hospital, done in virtual care settings, done in urgent care, ER, and then we're able to use that information to tweak the program over a period of time. Self-funded, because of the access to data, is becoming more and more popular, and it is a very proven technique to control costs. And I think it's extremely important that if you go down that path, that you're teaming with benefit builders like ourselves that are committed to working side by side, because you need to be aware of some of the challenges, but these are challenges that provide the opportunity to really control costs and save money.
And that's what's exciting about the world of self-funded insurance, is using those data points that Mark talked about. We get to see the results. And sometimes I would love to tell you it works perfectly every single time, but the devil's in the detail, the devil's in the data. So as we start to see those data shift, we are able to make changes in your program, changes in the communication to your employees, and really tweak how these things work. So it's one of the most exciting things. If you go online and you start Googling any of these, I want you to beware, because just like we tell employees, don't Google your medical conditions, because in 3 clicks you can get to death. When you pull up self-funded, you can pull up something, no, it's the perfect way to go bankrupt. Well, that's where your benefit builders comes in. That's where the pillars of excellence comes in at. Actually, I'm going to put up a chart on the screen that's going to show you some of the cost savings and some of the details. It's just a nice little graph between the fully insured, the level funded, and the self-funded. So if you give us the opportunity to visit with you, we're going to use the pillars of excellence. We're going to use the tools that we have in front of us to decide, where is your risk tolerance at? Self-funded isn't for everybody. Level funded isn't for everybody. Sometimes we stay at fully insured. But if your broker, if your advisor is not breaking down and kind of giving you options, well, have you ever thought about a level funded? Matt's going to tell you about how the refund works. Do I get the refund automatically, or do I have to re-sign up? What are the underwriting limits for all of these? And the answer to that is, it depends on the program, but that's where our expertise comes in at. So in closing, because not all of these videos have to be an hour long, right? But Matt, just share a story with us, whether it's on a level funded refund that they've gotten or self-funded program, that you have felt that you have been able to benefit the business owner through your advice.
Well, one thing we haven't talked about is the reporting aspect of getting stuff back from your program mid-year or the end of the year. Mark and I met with a group a few months ago and went through this process. Mark and I just talked about a group last week that I meet with tomorrow to meet with their employees. Brian talked about employee meetings. One of the things I'm going to bring up in that meeting is their prescription costs.
Sure.
Because the report that we pulled from the system showed that there are some prescription costs that are higher than what the employer would like to see. And we don't know who those employees are, but we can, in a group setting, we can let them know if you're having a problem with your copays on your prescriptions, come see me privately and we can try to look up alternative options. And that's just a small example of a benefit that you can pull out of your program.
And then whenever we do that, we can talk to the employees about opportunities, whether that's an opportunity through mail order, whether that's an opportunity through for a coupon, for lack of better terms, if they've talked to their doctor, if they've talked to their pharmacist, because what we know is sometimes an employee might be on a medication and there could be multiple variants of that medication that are less expensive. Now, like Matt said, anonymity is important. The HIPAA laws are important. We like our jobs and don't want to get sued. So we have a platform to use whenever we're communicating this, whether it has to do with prescription drugs or whether it has to do with the number of ER visits that we're seeing. We want to see those ER visits go down and the general practitioner visits go up, and those data points are so important to doing that. And no matter where we're at, we want to have meetings with you on this so that we can share the success or what needs to be done. Because if it's just a one and done, a set it and forget it, I call it product pushing. I sell you a product and you never hear back from me. If that's the experience that you're getting, I would highly encourage you let the Scott Agency and the three of us as your benefit builders take a look at your program. Mark, what do you have in closing, sir?
I think, Brian, it's important to recognize that when you focus on one of the pillars, you need to appreciate if you make a change to one of those core pillars, you have to understand the impact it may have on the others. And I think in this podcast, we did cover how considering cost alternatives, you also have to take a look at employee education. You have to also take a look at, do you have the right technology to access those claims? And then you also mentioned the importance of compliance, that when you're digging into the details, you got to make sure that you're doing it with the most security in your environment.
Yeah, and in closing, I'll throw the pillars of success up on here one more time so that we can take a look at it. And that's what I love about the pillars. You've got that core foundation of concierge service, which is us, your trusted advisors, the benefit builders. And then you have those four key pillars. It makes me happy that there's not 64 pillars underneath there. We take those four core pillars and we break them down, and it just makes sense. And that almost seems dangerous in a world today where things just don't make sense. So guys, we are your benefit builders. We work for the Scott Agency. We're Keystone partners, and we're here to help you get the most out of your employee benefits and help you with anything that you need employee benefits related. Thank you for your time. Please don't hesitate to share this podcast. You can jump on the website. You can jump on our Facebook feed. We'll put some links in here to that. But thank you so much for your time. We do appreciate it. Bye-bye.